job to go in the wall of her. Let's stick in a shinty bowl, the brick, the brack, the crack, and all. Let's call it an Irish pub. Caffrey's on, Kilkenny, a pound, the Guinness, pint, the cabbage, crap, the I don't want to be paddy trapped. We'll call it an Irish pub. While I'll be fucked to swear.
Welcome to episode 1 of the Pubcast. My name is Brendan O'Neill, and I would normally be joined by Mike Cross and Michelle Riley. But in these first few episodes, we are revisiting our previous podcast, Boardwalk Breakdown. Basically, we're shutting down the Boardwalk Breakdown podcast and moving those 13 episodes over here so we can keep them alive and well in our archives. So, the Pubcast is our new podcast where we'll talk about all kinds of stuff and not be limited to only talking about Boardwalk Empire. And it will actually begin on episode 14. So just consider these first 13 episodes as bonus content. Sláinte. Welcome to the Boardwalk Breakdown podcast featuring Michelle Riley, Mike Cross, and me, Brendan O'Neill. If you have any comments or questions, you can contact us on Twitter at Boardwalk Break. Enjoy the show. All right.
Are we going?
We are going. Episode 3.
What Jesus said.
This was an interesting episode for me because it wasn't quite as action-packed as the last one.
No, it wasn't.
But wasn't quite as expositional as the first one.
Agreed.
It was somewhere in the middle.
It was.
Which I think they're probably all going to be like that, or most of them will be like that.
And since I missed podcast 2.
Yes, let's welcome Michael back.
I'm back.
Mike is back from a 1-week hiatus.
1 week exile. But here's what I was very anxious about last week that I was not able to express since I wasn't here is immediately I knew when I saw the episode that it would draw Brendan in.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right?
We all knew that.
The
sure.
angst at the end of episode 1 that you were
expressing
would be alleviated very quickly, and they did not fail.
Episode 2, I was doing cartwheels. I'm like,
Yeah.
yes! Why wasn't this episode 1?
So,
yeah,
So.
it's great.
Which, let's just be honest, no one watched it during the original air except for me. Because the Bears were on.
Right.
You're right.
That's true. That's true.
I was texting you guys, and you're like,
Heathen.
don't tell us.
I know.
Heathen. I know you were texting.
I kind of had it. I knew what was going on.
You're bouncing back.
I was bouncing back.
So,
Anyways,
sorry, derail.
That's okay. That's fine.
What Jesus said.
What Jesus said.
So before we get into this, there's a couple points that I think I texted you about that I was wondering if we'd see this episode that I didn't think of the last time we did a podcast. One, will we see Dillinger?
Oh.
Awesome character. Bank robber. Chicago connections. All that stuff. He's around this time. I want to see Dillinger. Then I looked it up. He's in jail.
During this time.
He's in jail during almost this entire time.
I see.
He won't be out until like
36 or something, or 32.
2. I think he was killed in 33 at the Biograph or something like that.
Here's the deal. I don't think we would have seen him if he wasn't. Well, you don't know what the story would have
I
been.
suspect he could have
been
crossed
a factor,
paths with
but
some of these guys.
I think it would have been too much of a throw-in.
Probably.
So
because he was such a big character at the time and
Sure.
a fun guy to have in,
why not?
you
right?
never know.
Yeah.
I mean, they have Kennedy for
All
Christ's
right.
sake. So.
Whatever. What may have been.
All right.
Moving on.
All right.
Wow. Mama Bear.
Other thing I noticed.
Boo-hoo.
Boo-hoo. Take it.
One thing we haven't
Try
touched
somewhere
on,
else.
and it's relevant to all these episodes, really, is that except for the first season, we see almost no cops. There's no police effort whatsoever in any of these shows. The first season we have it because Eli is
the sheriff.
Sheriff.
But he kind of, that whole thing.
We see it in the Gyp season because...
Well, and there was also
Little
sort of
bit.
the FBI thing.
There's FBI and there's probies, or pro-hees, whatever they call them. FBI guys on the prohibition
train,
thing.
right.
But there's no like, the cops are either just bought off or just non-existent, maybe just to tell the story, but...
Well, I think for
it's kind of an interesting choice.
I don't know. Organized crime isn't usually bothered by such...
I guess, but they're so out in the open. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, obviously
think
they're taking
Prohibition was
some
more
poetic
like-
license, right? I mean, all the stuff around Atlantic City involves cops, but just on the periphery with Eli.
Yeah.
And you do have the Gyp season where there's a lot of police involvement in that episode, in that
true.
season across the board.
I'll give you that.
But Chicago, we haven't really seen much. There's no doubt about that. New York, we've seen a little heroin bust, but that was all kind of.
I'm not concerned about that.
Yeah.
It's not a big
you're
deal. I just thought it was
talking
an interesting
An observation.
thing that we hadn't
Sure.
talked about.
Yeah, an observation.
So, back to episode 3. We open with, I thought, one of the more interesting scenes or combination of scenes maybe in the whole series. And that's the Chalky and Buck break into the house and the 2 hostage ladies and that whole thing. I was surprised by that. I mean, I didn't think that's where it was headed. That was unusual. I thought they were for sure going to a safe house or some sort of safe haven that Buck knew about. I didn't know he was trying to
rob somebody you knew from a previous life, right? So,
well, that became apparent when he said, "Oh, I thought you said these people would be gone or something. There's people here."
Once they were in the house, yeah, but I mean,
up until that point,
you knew they were going somewhere. I didn't think that was the end game.
I liked how they show them just scarfing down the food too, because you think about like how hungry they would be.
Oh yeah. I really appreciated that arc within this episode.
Yeah.
It really.
Oh yeah, definitely.
It created a lot of tension, and you knew something was going to happen, but I don't know about you guys, but I was not quite sure how that was going to play out.
No,
I had a feeling
confused.
he was going to whack Buck eventually.
I sort of thought that was coming the whole time,
but it was like the whole lead up to it and the build
because
up.
there was this whole Chalky was showing how he really wasn't, he was different from Buck. But then when he had the chance to sort of leverage that, he said, no, I'm exactly the same.
Right.
But he is a broke-ass man.
Broke-ass.
He's broke in many ways.
Yeah,
yes.
I mean, he's done. He is just, it's so sad that his life, and he's so bitter. But
even
it's also
on the
clear
downside,
he's got nothing to lose.
Yeah,
totally.
Even at his lowest point, you can see how he is different from almost everybody. He sits back, he just listens, and waits, and listens and waits, and he's looking for the right angle. He's not going to act on the impulsive.
Yes, he is very
thing.
reserved. You're right. And he is very calculated.
He is the stoic impression of Mama always said, you got 2 ears and 1 mouth. Use them in proportion.
I say that when I coach my kids.
Right.
Every damn practice.
And
you really say that?
I do.
It is a great thing, and you can really see how a guy like Chalky, throughout the entire series, has been able to survive and thrive, and sometimes even when he's at his down points, he's able to see through the the quote unquote bullshit.
Yeah.
And really map things out. So he's a thinker. He's a great thinker, and that's what I love about this character. He's he might be my favorite character from the entire series.
He
so
might
far
be
he's
mine
mine
too.
Yeah.
Unless something else happens that is unusual. So anyway, going along with the episode, we see some of that. It's sort of setting up that whole much of that stuff we just talked about. We have a quick little flashback to young Nucky working for the Commodore. Mm-hmm. That thread, I'm not a huge fan of it, but I get it. They're trying to establish the backstory and the reason for Nucky being who he is.
Can we ask a question about the young girl that he has the crush on?
Who is that?
Is it Jillian?
No way, no. She's way too young.
You sure?
In the TV show Boardwalk Empire, clearly Nucky is well older than Jillian.
No.
I don't know about that.
I don't agree.
No?
No.
I do not agree.
I got more the impression that they were peers.
I think historically they are. I don't know that. I'm not sure that Jillian's a historical character, but Nucky at this time was 40 or whatever.
I think it could
in
be
this
more.
show,
More
Steve
like
Buscemi
50.
is clearly 60 or whatever.
Yeah, he's
right?
Yeah.
No, he's not.
No, 50,
In the
60, somewhere in
I'm
between
saying,
50 and 60.
Look at the guy.
Eli's got a kid that's 18 years old, so he's probably 40.
This is true.
And
I don't know. I'm just saying.
I don't.
Look at Steve
and
Buscemi
Jillian's got
versus
a kid,
Jillian.
even though she had him at 13.
Yeah.
Who was 20 or something when he died, right? 25?
All right.
Probably
Jimmy?
between 25 and 30.
Maybe that's her. I thought that it was. I thought the young Nucky and Jillian supposedly didn't jive with the two people I see on screen as adults.
Well, all right. Time will tell.
Right.
Yeah, we'll
But I
we'll
do
get
think
there.
it's interesting because she obviously came from that girl
Yeah.
came from an
affluent background. Let's go
and
get our
she
feet
was
wet.
precocious. She was quite precocious.
Yeah.
And she was charming.
I think,
to say that.
and I think there's more to that storyline.
So the idea
we're
that
gonna
he
find out,
could
right?
have this sort of like crush on her on some level, and at the same time
Right.
be responsible for damaging her could.
Assuming that's her, I mean, that's a whole. I mean, that
That
explains
could
a lot.
explain a lot
right?
about Jimmy and
Yeah.
everything else. So anyway, I will be interested to see how that
Plays out,
through.
right.
I wondered if anyone had the same idea. Sounds like Mike did.
I did. I thought the same.
I did, but I dismissed it. Like, there's no way.
I think it could.
I,
Be.
was
I
thrown
didn't.
off.
I did, and I didn't dismiss it, but I wasn't sure. So let's
sure.
let's see where it goes. Right.
Interesting. Anyway, please carry on.
Now,
Carry on.
then we go smash cut to Nucky and Mickey.
Oh God, Mickey.
Mickey's a great,
I want to kick him
a
in the
great
face.
cockroach of a character. He just survives.
Any of you guys find
that
a
voice.
guy cooled in on a windowsill?
I mean, I love that he used to have like a Slavic name. They changed it to Doyle just
Mickey Doyle, right?
to make money because
Right.
that's where you made money.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
And
That's
it
perfect.
was crazy how he just comes sauntering into that little work group where Nucky tells him to go get the workers, which I think is hilarious. First of all, it's like you don't know what to do, just make it happen.
Right.
I
Yeah.
can't even
Right.
believe that Nucky's got this numbskull around him that just can't make
and that he
these things
survived for
happen.
so long.
Yeah, exactly. But anyway,
So
it
he's
was-
conniving, though. You know, in a way.
yeah.
Look, here he's like a cockroach. Is really what he is. Mickey Doyle is. You're a perfect example of a survivor who leeches off of whatever he can, finds the right angle, stays out of enough trouble to make some money.
He's
but
just
not
smart
get,
enough to not get killed.
Exactly.
That's as far
Exactly.
as his intelligence goes.
Yeah, and that is pretty much the end
He doesn't
of the window.
benefit out of it almost ever. He just sort of survives.
Right, right.
But when he chose to do 9 men instead of 8, because the guy just said, "Listen, I'm just hungry."
Well, and he said, I'll give you half of my pay.
Yes, you're right.
Right?
You're
So
right.
it was a twofold thing
Yeah.
there. I thought that was very.
But you could tell that he was a little.
Yeah, I mean, I
put
think he
back,
liked
like,
the
"Oh,
kids.
guys just hungry. Meanwhile,
Now-
they're having frickin' bourbon on ice.
I
He's
just
drinking soup or whatever.
I did cheat a little bit and looked up Mickey Doyle, the historical figure.
Oh my god!
And if that kid is who I think he is, he may become Mickey's own bodyguard and then play a role in Mickey's future.
Whoa.
Interesting.
So we'll
We'll see. Time will tell.
because they obviously were setting that kid up to be something. He was going to do something
Right, they obviously
somewhere.
did
But
because yes.
who knows how big that role is? So
Well, let's hope
Anyway.
we're not going to expand it.
Nucky and Mickey at the club. I'm always confused. Is that club Babette's? Is that the big dance club, or is this a different sort of Nucky's sort of
Stripper club.
headquarters?
I think we moved on from
Stripper.
Babette's.
Right.
Babette's was blown up.
Right.
Right. This is obviously a different.
I never catch the name of it or the front of it.
They
or
haven't
whatever.
shown it.
Yeah.
Because
Okay.
I was looking too. And
I thought that was
it's a
just
new
me.
office for Nucky. It's a
Yeah.
new
Yeah.
look. He's got the windows. He's got the girls downstairs.
We saw it last season, but I was never sure. You know, that was the one that Chalky was running for a while and all that stuff. So Sally Wheat calls and gives Nucky an update, and that was a quick little call there. I sort of even zoned out at that point. I wasn't paying
I know.
attention.
We
Oh,
know
you're
how you
zoning
feel
out on
about
Zell.
her.
But it
I
was
thought that
fine.
sweet how they.
Right.
Yeah.
And
Listen to the song.
a key piece of information that we found, well, we would have found it out anyway. That senator that Nucky was trying to woo for the repeal of prohibition is out of the picture. He's no longer involved.
Right. But I don't think that's the end of the story.
Right. Now, Nucky said that Kennedy is the new big fish.
Right.
Kennedy's the guy he's after to try to benefit off of.
And last week Kennedy was introduced to us, and this week, boy,
He had took.
I
a
remember
prominent
Brendan
role.
saying last week that he hopes that he's going to see Joe Kennedy just be a dick,
Yeah.
and boy, he was a dick.
He delivered.
He's good.
He did. I actually find this actor very charming, and
Without question.
and
He's good.
when you guys were saying that you thought that about Joe Kennedy and how he's always been portrayed, I think this is probably the most positive this guy's ever been
Yeah.
portrayed, because you always
yeah.
see him as an older man who's just bitter and horrible, and he seemed to me to be very Corleone.
Yeah.
He seemed to be doing it for the family. You know, I mean, he definitely has his priorities.
Yeah.
I mean, talk about a guy who's driven. So I particularly enjoyed that exchange where he showed them that he doesn't drink in public.
Right.
I think he drinks in private.
Let's not jump ahead on that one. But,
Okay.
So Kennedy could be a really big part of this whole season. I mean, he's
I'm
major,
sure he will
right?
be. I have no doubt.
Yeah, and he's a fun character.
I know how you are about going in chronological order. So.
Only because I have a note for each little scene, so I want to I don't want to backtrack too much.
Let's touch.
So,
Not figurative. Not literally. Figurative.
we jumped to Margaret. This is a symptom of me taking notes in real time during the episode. So
Yeah.
that's a
See,
problem.
that's
with
a
that.
problem.
I know.
Margaret.
Abe Redstone.
First of all, did I call it or
You
what?
called it.
I called it. She was
Yeah,
making money
yeah.
on that account the entire
Yeah.
time. Go back to scene
Yep.
episode 1. I said that's what she was doing. And the bitch got caught.
So Abe Redstone.
Rectified that situation.
She's being
quite
interviewed
some
by
time ago.
the lawyers or the brokerage officials, whoever she's being talked to about. Or about
SEC, probably.
SEC is better. We'll go with that.
Okay.
So someone, quote unquote, someone has drawn $111,000 from Rothstein's account after, during the 3 years he's been dead. $111,000.
Well, I know, and that's the thing. She could have gotten off with this whole thing scot-free if she would have been a little smarter about closing up the loose ends. There.
Maybe she thought it was never going to end. I mean,
He'd been dead for how many years?
But
That's true. That's true. I guess.
Why would it be a problem?
Changed?
Right?
Yeah.
Once that guy killed himself, pack up and get out of there with
Get
your
the
$100,000.
hell out,
I
right.
mean, what is she waiting around for? I don't know. Why even be interviewed?
I think she was trying to. I mean, that's why what they showed us in the last episode was her trying to go into the file and getting kind of pinched.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, come on, she could have bailed if she wanted to. And I thought it was an interesting callback to Margaret talking about cutting a deal for the 5-year of the rent-free apartment
Right.
from
Quite
Redstone.
Quite possibly my favorite scene of the episode was the widow
His wife.
Rothstein.
Yes.
She was
Margaret
interesting.
and coming clean, and a great actress, Shada Lynn, who's been around the block a few times. And it was just a very well played episode.
Shada Lynn?
Shay
DeLynn.
DeLynn.
Was she in Vegas Vacation?
Yes.
She was in one of the vacations.
Yes,
Right.
she was.
Right?
Yes.
Okay, I knew I saw her face somewhere. Good.
So she does a
recall.
good turn as the widow Rothstein,
Carolyn Rothstein, right?
who is not someone to be fucked with.
Clearly.
In any sense of the word, right? And she is going to get hers, and she's going to get that money.
You know what? I mean, she came off as Rothstein Jr. I mean, she was like, she had...
Totally.
She knew what was going on. She knew how to play every angle. She knew what you were going to do and then how she would counter it. I mean, it was pretty... That was
Very
good.
impressed.
That was very good. All right, so I'm going to go off my notes and just go with the flow now at this point.
Really?
Please.
I don't believe it.
I'm going to try at least.
I insist.
So Carolyn wants the money in Rothstein's account and is willing to sue Margaret, who has
Nothing.
nothing, basically.
I don't know. She has nothing.
She spent $111,000.
On what?
I don't know.
She may
does
have...
not
Okay,
the
she has a certain amount of money, obviously not enough to
pay back.
set herself
that.
up,
Yeah, right.
well.
Or to set herself up.
Where are those kids?
But then she says, all right, if I'm not going to sue you, then I'm going to sue your husband, Nucky. And then there's the money trail. I mean,
Right.
that's what this is all about. And I thought that was interesting that she knew everything.
Yeah.
She knew about Nucky and knew that they were still married and knew where she was living and all
Don't
that stuff.
underestimate the wife, honey.
No,
They
it's
know
great.
everything.
I mean,
Do you imagine that a guy like Rothstein would marry someone who was a total
Yeah,
ditz?
exactly.
I'm amazed he's married at all. To be honest.
I am
Now, that
surprised
is
he's
more
married at all,
surprising,
but it was also a product of the times.
Yes.
I mean, a Rothstein in 2010 is probably not married. A Rothstein in 1925 is, right? So
I also think, as we've discussed many times, in this time period, women were far more savvy than they are today.
well, they were
Savvy. How?
Their circumstances were so constrained, and marriage was an economic vehicle as much as anything else,
Okay.
that they knew that they really didn't have any other options, and so they had to figure out how to sort of work through the one that they had.
Yeah.
So I think, maybe not in this, I don't want to speak broadly for all women, but there are a number of women who are happy to leave those details to their husband today.
Right.
And that probably didn't happen as much as you think it would happen back then. Especially if you had a husband who wasn't on the straight and narrow.
Agreed. I don't think Rothstein was.
All right.
On to bigger and better.
I just like to do the all right part. Okay, back to Chalky and Buck. So
Chalky
back
and
in the house. Now they have the two hostages. Buck is proving himself, as we all knew, to be super unstable and insane.
And Michael, this was your creep of the week, I'm guessing?
Creep of the week, right?
Totally.
Yeah.
Well, it was actually not totally. It was a toss up between Buck and Joe Kennedy.
Damn it!
So
Kennedy was my creep of the week.
Not mine. I
Yeah.
would go with Buck. I mean, Kennedy was
listen,
on fire.
different kind. Listen, Buck is straight Buck crazy.
wild.
He's
Buck-
Buck wild, right?
Buck you can see coming a mile away.
Right. Joe Kennedy, you do not,
Right.
which makes him a bigger creep. And as the history books tell us, and we have a lot of, from 1931 until 2014, we have tons of data on Joe Kennedy, and we know he was a
Yes.
scumbag, right? I mean,
I don't know if scumbag's the right word. He was definitely
he was a fucking rum runner.
he was
What
a rum
happened to
runner.
his daughter? Didn't they
Don't
cut half her
start
brain
that.
out?
Cut her brain out. Right. I mean,
Ungrateful
listen.
Irish turncoat.
No.
Oh,
Pete.
God. I hate the fact that I'm Irish and I have to defend the Kennedys for that. So, I mean, it's like the curse. And if you
don't
talk
have to.
that, it's
I
like...
know you're joking. All right, so
Don't have to.
yes,
They're from Boston.
what I was saying about Kennedy earlier was I do think that I think this shows him in a better light than he's ever been portrayed.
Yeah,
he's still a
I
jerk. You can't take the jerk out of it, but he's usually seen as being totally ruthless and just he seems much more human in
All
his
right,
portrayal.
but is he not singular in focus?
yes,
I mean,
absolutely.
that's who he was. And his whole... The thing... You know what my favorite scene in this was?
But you do get a sense that he is on a mission.
Of course he's on a mission.
To
But the complete and utter shamelessness of him shaming Nucky about not having pictures around and not doing this. Joe Kennedy was a guy who did not give a shit about his family.
Oh, I don't know about that.
He gave a shit about his family, but not in the respect that we give a shit about our families. We want our kids to be happy and do well. He only wanted success for the Kennedy name. He didn't give a shit about his kids.
I don't know about that.
Oh, I don't know.
don't
Can I
know.
get some backing on this?
I tend to
don't
think
know.
that way. I thought he was more about almost like empirical success and numbers.
Like lineage.
He wanted to have 8 people succeed him because that was more Kennedy's to be involved in politics and this and that, whatever. He wanted to build his brand. And I think
So he looked
I
at
think
it.
people had a lot of kids in those days because they were Catholic.
Of course they
and
did.
that's-
Oh,
Of
he
course
wasn't
they
only
did.
one,
No
of course.
and
question.
he could afford them.
But
So,
he looked at his kids as commodities. He did not look at them as
I don't know.
his children.
I think that
and that
he
comes
may
out
have-
later in how he treats
He
Jack.
may have had
Totally.
a war.
And how he... and not even more so... who was the one who died in World War II?
Joe.
Joe Jr., who was really the one who he wanted to be
right.
the man, right?
Right.
And Jack had to take that mantle because Joe was killed in
But
World
I
War
don't
II.
think that he wanted success for his kids so that he could preserve his lineage, although maybe that's part
Oh,
of
I
it.
do.
I do think that he wanted success for his kids, and he was somewhat skewed about what that would mean.
I disagree. I think
that they'd be happy if they were this, that they'd be secure if they were that.
Joe Kennedy, if you were to dig his ass up on Nantucket or wherever he's buried right now, he would be thrilled at the fact that the Kennedys are talked about in the light that they're talked about now. Not that they're talked about in a positive light or a negative light, just that they're being talked about. And they always will be, right? I think that was more of his mantra.
Maybe I'm sympathetic to him as a previous owner of the merchandise mart.
Let's come back to this because that
could be.
That scene basically ends the episodes. I want to come back to that.
Yes,
because that's when I will do my now clearly classic, unusual, random comparisons of Boardwalk Empire to something else.
Looking forward.
So I've got one that ties into that last scene. So we'll hit Kennedy again.
Definitely looking forward to that.
So. Chucky and Buck with the hostages.
Chuck and Buck?
Chuck and Buck. Oh,
Chuck and Buck. Chalky.
I think I saw them play in New Orleans in 1983.
Chucky and Buck.
So, all right. Buck is nuts. Chalky's biding his time, just waiting. Fantastic. The part I wasn't clear on early on is Buck keeps saying and thinking he's been there before. Has he, or are they in the wrong house?
No, they're in...
Because he's got that huge noggin.
Right.
I think they were in
I think he was in that house.
I think they were too.
I think he was in that house. I think they jockeyed some things around the house. Like they used to have the safe in the basement, then they moved it upstairs, and they did this and they did that.
It was
and the
long
father's
ago enough
obviously not there anymore,
Yeah.
and he's not a part of the life.
Yeah.
I love this whole arc because you can feel that tension just rising and rising and rising, right? It's like your blood pressure goes up the entire time you're watching it.
And what amazed me is that the times were obviously so desperate, right? That the implication was that he's gone, whether he's gone, or almost a mercy leaving, because they were obviously destitute.
Yeah.
It is amazing to me that is truly all they had in the world, and they were willing to take that shit as long as they took it before they gave up the fact, I'll open the safe, and then she goes through all that shit so that he can get some Liberty bonds.
I know.
Like, why did she do that?
Well, I mean, the Liberty bonds might have been
really desperate,
worth a lot of money.
Must have been,
and that might have been all they had.
It was
all they had.
It was the depression.
It was the depression. So
there was no end in sight, right? So this scene made me think of two people and two things. There are two people in this whole series who, at the same time, are the most often underestimated, and the people who should who should never ever be underestimated. And it's Chalky and Nucky.
Totally.
Everyone always thinks that they're not paying attention. They're not doing this. They're not doing that. They're always trying to undercut them, and they're always 3 steps ahead, 5 steps ahead. They always know what's going on, and they always come up and they get their just due.
Well, do you notice if you notice in the entire series when you introduce a character or you introduce a new person into a given scene, and Chalky or Nucky are involved, who's always doing the talking? It's not them, right? It's always about how they're using the 2 ears, 1 mouth theory, right? And they're constantly assessing what's going on. So I think the beauty of that whole scene at the home with the wife and the mother, or the mother and the daughter, is it really shows the true character of Chalky in that he knows the whole time that he is going to take Buck out.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of when, and it's a matter of how, and it's a matter of
opportunity.
Yeah, opportunity. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when, right? But it builds so well, and you can see Chalky, you can see the wheels spinning while he's not talking.
He's not going to allow this to go south.
Right. He does not want this to turn into a bloodbath.
A lot of that's the actor, Michael K. Williams. I mean, he does an amazing job.
And let's tweet that at Michael K. Williams.
We will. He's so far one of our Twitter friends. Anyway. Okay, now we come to one of the more interesting meetings, and that's Narcisse. Narcisse finally makes an appearance.
Oh, my buddy.
Mike's...
This actually crystallized some things for me about why Narcisse is still around and why he wasn't eliminated, as Michael suggested originally. Because I was on Michael's team there, saying that doesn't seem like it would have been that hard to get him out. But I appreciated this scene because Lucky and Bugsy walked in like they were going to go siphon something off from him, and he basically said no. And you know what? He's right. What are they going to do? Run Harlem?
Right.
I mean, the segregation alone is going to prevent them from having anything to do with it or being able to gain any control over it unless they have Narcisse. And Narcisse has enough gumption to just say,
that's true.
No, not going to happen.
They can't do what they want without him.
They can't.
Yeah.
He's their only way to do it. And it's interesting to me that he's basically taken the Nucky playbook or whatever, gangster playbook you want to say, and set up a parallel universe for himself in Harlem where he knows none of them are going to be, and none of them are going to be able to handle it. And he says, let me go figure this out. I actually find him, as we've said many times, 10 times more disgusting than any of the other guys because he was so, I don't know what the word is, he's preying so much on the degradation and addiction of the people that he is lording over, where, you know, it seems more of a victimless crime with Nucky when you're talking about booze. You know what I mean?
But he's for the uplifting of the Libyan man.
Michael?
The Libyans. The Libyans.
Thank you.
You knew that was coming.
I was, that was your cue.
The Libyans.
So, all right.
Can we get into that scene?
To boil that down, Narcisse previously had a deal with Mazaria to sell heroin. Lucky and Bugsy obviously killed Mazaria. And say Maranzano wants the same deal. Maranzano says he wants to write he wants the deal to continue. Narcisse turns them down, saying basically, "You're in Harlem.
Yeah, get out of here.
What are you going to do?
Take it?"
So they're going to take him.
Right.
I mean, they're going to do everything they can to make his life miserable.
I don't know that.
They're going to put pressure on him, but he's already lost a lot. I don't know what they can...
Well, in order to just
what his pain
tie
point
up
is
the
now.
story here, they did put... When Narcisse told them to pack their bags and thanks but no thanks, they did end up going to one of his houses of ill repute and shooting it up, everybody inside of it. So there was a clear message sent that we gave you an opportunity to play nice, and you didn't.
Two of the kids shot up a whorehouse.
Down. But I still feel like Narcisse, having absolutely no soul whatsoever, is going to be like, eh.
Yeah, I don't think that
I don't see that being a
him.
deterrent for him.
Yeah.
And what are they going to do? Shoot everything?
Right.
It doesn't matter. He's got people that are so desperate they'll. I mean, I don't see it being a real serious problem.
But they're desperate too. So I mean, I really do see them forcing this and turning it into World War III. I mean, that's kind of my position on it. Is the whole Charlie Luciano and Benny Siegel versus Dr. Narcisse in Harlem is going to be an interesting point through the next 4 or 5 episodes, right? It's going to become this struggle, this power struggle. Who's really in charge?
I'm on Narcisse. I mean, I would bet on Narcisse.
I won't.
I would.
Always bet on the Dagos.
Oh, God. Now we're going to get boycotted.
I
didn't mean that for my Italian friends out there.
Yeah, they would say the same thing, I think. Too.
They would. Totally. Of course they would.
Bet on themselves.
They always bet on
themselves.
All right.
Okay, so now just chronologically, I want to hit this meeting between Nucky and Kennedy, the lunch.
Finally,
assuming it's a lunch.
It can be revealed. It's hit the right Brendan's notepad.
This is not the final scene. This is the lunch,
the initial lunch when we get seltzer water.
Because I think
and milk,
seltzer water, right?
Milk.
So Nucky's willing to change himself just because his pseudo hero, this guy he wants to be his mentor, obviously.
Right.
Doesn't drink in public because he doesn't want the bad reputation of a drunken Irishman.
He said it was bad enough that he's trying to do business as an Irish Catholic.
Right.
Which you can't underestimate that part of it, too.
Well, at that point in time.
Right.
At that point in time, it was bad enough
concern.
to be Irish, but to be Catholic on top of it was even worse.
So they're talking about family and stuff a little bit. You know, do you have kids? Do you have a wife? Whatever. Oh. And
Nucky.
Joe Kennedy says that he's got 8 kids, 9 on the way or whatever. And Nucky's like, whoa, what's that all about? And Kennedy says safety in numbers.
Safety in numbers.
To back up your point of sort of he wants this
lineage.
group around him.
He wants this lineage.
All these Kennedys, and then divide and conquer.
Right.
Maybe.
That is wholeheartedly the way I felt about how Joe Kennedy planned his life. And make no mistake that everything that Joe Kennedy did had a purpose.
Catholics of that generation did not plan any of their children.
Listen,
Right.
most
End
Catholics,
of story.
99% of Catholics didn't, right? It's why my mom is the oldest of 8.
Yes, that
right?
is true.
But the fact of the matter is that he didn't just do it because that's the way people did it. He did it with a purpose. There was a reason behind it.
Maybe.
My grandmother was the youngest of 12.
There you go.
Yeah, my dad's the oldest
Shanty
of 7.
fucking Irish.
God damn it. It always comes back to that.
It does.
What kind of lace curtain bullshit you're running
here
here
we
on
go.
Neil. I'm about to show you.
We do find out one thing. We find out that Nucky sent Eli to Chicago. In the last episode, we weren't sure what was up with Eli.
We knew Eli was in Chicago,
But we didn't know if
we
he
didn't
had
know why.
just
we didn't
gone
know if
by
he was on
himself.
the lam or if he was
Right.
But now we know he was sent.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's could play a role.
Oh, could. It definitely will.
Eli will play a role, whether it matters that he's been sent or not.
I
don't
hated
know.
Eli so much in the first and second season, and I have now come to totally just love that character. So-
Well, because he's a repressed alcoholic with.
Well,
you
no,
know,
he's got. There's a lot more to him than just being. Angry
he's not
and
as
bitter.
base as he originally came off, right? And we're starting to see that. And this goes back to the flashbacks, which Brendan hates. But the reality is the flashbacks are showing us how Eli became Eli, right?
Now, wouldn't get all warm and fuzzy about him just yet.
Oh, I'm not warm and fuzzy.
he
I'm
was
saying
part
there's
of
much
a-
more depth to his character.
He was part of a little cartel that tried to kill his own brother.
exactly.
Right?
So it's really, he's not like he's like,
No,
oh,
he's not,
shucks.
yeah.
Nucky's this tough guy, and I got to go to Chicago. Darn it. He's the,
Yeah, I'm just saying there's a little
He's
more
bad.
interesting story than
Yeah.
than a one-trick pony than
Yeah.
it kind of was in the earlier seasons.
Quickly, Kennedy talks about gambling and rigging the game. That's how he made his money.
Yeah.
And then one thing I wrote down, which is obvious, but I thought it was funny because I wrote it in the dark watching this episode, is that, like we talked about last time, Nucky wants to be Joe Kennedy.
For real.
He
Totally.
has an all-out man crush
Yes,
on Joe Kennedy.
he sure
Without
does.
question.
Absolutely.
Without question.
Absolutely.
The Nucky Thompsons of the day would certainly not have a drink based on someone
Right,
else not having
right.
a drink.
I don't know,
Unless they had
Side,
the
I
serious
guess.
man crush, right?
Yeah.
But this
It's Nucky's whole thing is that he's always in between worlds. He's always half this and half that.
Right.
And he can never pick a lane.
But this whole season with the flashbacks has all been about
Yep.
Nucky's mortality,
Yep.
his legacy. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if Nucky died at the end of this because it is kind of looking at the final chapter of his life and what he's going to leave behind.
Well, it
and
really depends on
does
when.
he have
Depends
kids
how
or
far-
does he not have kids? Is
how far
Will
this
going to
goes.
be able to set this up down the road? Trying to go legit, this idea of redemption. This all feels very deathbed to me.
All of it is dependent on how far the series takes it, right? Like how far they say, all right, we're going to go to 1930X, right? Because there are historical facts that are
But this is
wrapped
not.
around this.
This is not
Right.
Enoch Johnson. This
Right.
is Nucky Thompson.
I know,
so
but
it doesn't have to.
But
be,
they're really have they not followed the pattern the whole time?
Well, of course.
I mean, they followed the pattern to the point that Rothstein we know is now dead.
But Rothstein's a real character. Nucky is not a real character.
Nucky is not a
Based
real
on
character, but he's
Yeah.
based on a real character.
Depends how strictly they stick to history dates and how far this last episode goes. Do they go to 1934, 36?
I think
whatever?
they will be pretty
Yeah.
true to the history.
I think they will be succinct. I think we might find out in the rolling credits at the end of the last episode that, hey, in 1936, Nucky Thompson perished
Died of
based on this and that.
Cirrhosis.
I don't necessarily know that we're going to see a lot of that
I
finality.
feel like there will
Right.
be this.
There will be some conclusion. There will be a conclusion. I just don't know that it's going to be as dramatic as maybe we're expecting it to be. We're not going to have season 3. What was the shootout at the end of the season?
Right.
Right.
We're not getting that Al Capone, get me something to eat and we're going to kill some people. we're not getting that at the end of this.
I think
we're
you're
gonna get
getting something like that.
We're going to get it, but
in
not at the end.
Second to last episode.
Right. We're going to get that before the end.
And it'll be chalky.
The end
It'll
is
be in
going
our
to
scenes.
wrap. The end is going to wrap everything up in a nice little bow for us.
Yeah, because
It'll
we
be
know Lucky
Marzano.
lives longer. Anyway, the thing about
Right.
Kennedy moving forward
Right.
is, which we should have said a while back, when he had the first meeting at the lunch, and then later on when they were up at the club.
That's where we are.
And he really sort of puts it to him that, this is not a foregone conclusion, that he is going into business with Nucky.
Right.
Nucky is chomping at the bit to get this deal done. And he turns on him. He basically says, what are you doing this for?
Yeah.
You don't have any pictures of your kids. You don't even know how old they are. You're telling me you have a nephew, but I don't know anything about this guy.
Well, and
what are you doing all this? Why make
Why
all
are
this
you doing
money?
this?
Right before that part, he says he's basically Kennedy talking to his competitor, saying, "Damn, you beat me to that Bacardi deal. I should have been down there before." Like, they're in competition, and he's just saying, "You got me that time." I think he's reluctant to almost go in bed with his competition. He wants to beat him, not join him.
Yeah.
That could very well
Being
be.
Kennedy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then at some point, they're talking about, I forget who it is, the Bacardi guys or whoever it is. And Nucky says, "Oh, yeah, those guys are gangsters."
Yeah, I'm not.
Talking
Oh,
about
right.
Nucky's
Yeah.
connections, basically.
Right.
Yeah, I'm not part of them. Those guys are gangsters. And then Kennedy says, "What are you?" Saying, obviously, you're one of them. What are you? And Nucky says, "I'm an advocate for repeal." Just trying to say, again, he's trying to come across as a Kennedy-like figure. Like, he's for the up and up. He wants this to be above board.
Right, he's desperate to try to make this legitimate.
Even
and
though his
Kennedy comes back as
bulk of his
majority,
career is based on
Right.
the illegal.
But here's the
but it
beauty
shows
of it.
his desire to go
His
straight.
desire is
Right.
to be a legitimate businessman,
Right.
not to be
Right.
this gangster type character, right?
Right.
So he's fighting internally, right? He's fighting in his own brain. How do I overcome the fact that I've been this and now I want to be something different? And how do I show everyone that I can be, right?
Yep.
And
Right,
it's a
and
very
that's-
difficult thing for him to do. And it's going to continue to be. It's not going to be something he's going to easily overcome.
Right.
I think there is something more to that Kennedy story. I think there's more to it that we will see.
Right. Well, and right after that, Necky. Holy cow.
Nucky.
Kennedy points out Nucky's law breaking. Like, you were
Right,
a
he says, I've
bootlegger.
never broken the law in my life.
And he goes, "I've never broken one in my life." Like, yeah, I mean, I'm
Which I thought was
without
precious.
reproach. Yeah. He doesn't see what he's done as
Right.
breaking the law.
He's basically saying, well, I'm not a gangster.
Right. Even though he did it in the stock market and wherever else.
And bootlegging.
Right.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, but even worse, all the rigging that he did with the insider trading.
Totally.
And, well, I mean, I
Yeah.
don't even think that was illegal back then.
no, but it was
But fixed.
unethical,
Yes.
right? If he
So-
claimed to be the Irish Catholic he was, he would have never done it.
Coming back to Kennedy's, Mike's assertion, and I think mine, that Kennedy wants to leave a legacy. He wants to have X number of kids that are super successful and build this sort of,
That's the brand.
today we call it Camelot, or a brand. Then he's wanted the Kennedy name to be out there as, the gold standard.
Totally. And
So-
guess what? He was successful in that.
So as part of that,
He was successful.
along those lines, he asked Nucky, "Tell me what you really want. Enough of this bullshit.
Right.
What do you really
Give me
want?"
What do you really want?
Nucky says to leave something behind. Nucky says that to Kennedy, and that's actually what Kennedy would have said to Nucky had he been truthful. I thought
Yeah.
they're so
Kennedy-
alike, but they're so different.
And Kennedy walked away on that,
Right.
which was interesting to me because that was the answer that Nucky should have given
Yep.
and did give.
Yeah.
And Kennedy still didn't quite buy it because
Yeah, but
in
I
his
got the when he
self-righteous
gave it to him,
state,
it was sort of like, okay, we're done here, or was it like, okay, that's what I need to hear? I still don't know which
I
way
know.
it was.
Yeah,
I know.
and that's a tough call. It's really the whole the whole Kennedy thing. Look, we all know what those people are about.
All right, you are awfully judgmental.
I do like the idea of the Kennedys being those people, though.
Yeah,
They are
those people.
Well, they are those people.
Good God, my
They're the
God.
self-righteous pricks. You know they are. They always have been. I mean, look, they've been glorified for 100 years, without question.
They've also made some serious contributions.
Really? Like what?
Oh my God, Michael! Like their lives. How about their lives?
Presidency.
My point exactly. I mean, exactly. They're
right.
they're not good people. They are what they are, right? I mean, they are an historical family in the history of our government, in the history of our
Zeitgeist.
totally. I mean, they are the quintessential 1900 to 2000 kind of. They defined that entire century. From the beginning to the end, with Joe Kennedy and his bootlegging, to what's his name?
They defined a segment of it.
Flying upside down into into Cape Cod, right?
Right.
But
Really, we're debating the merits of the Kennedy
okay,
family legacy.
well, look,
No.
But I mean, I'm not debating it. I'm just saying that
What about
they are
Maria
what they are.
Shriver?
Maria
She's
Shriver.
on the Today Show.
You're right.
I think
Forgot
what,
about that.
I think what Mike is trying to say is what I would say about Derek Jeter.
Oh, for the love of
Oh,
God!
for Christ's sake!
He's not as on a pedestal as everyone would have. He's good. He's great. He's done some good things. He's not this almighty deity that
Yes,
the people
I
of the
think
time
that
would want him to be.
The shine is off
That's what I'd say
with
about
the Kennedys.
Well, top
Nobody
five
thinks
Yankees
the
of all time?
Kennedys were
Yeah.
perfect. There is no longer a 8x10 glossy of JFK on every single
Irish
wall
Catholic
next
wall,
to the
yeah.
picture of Jesus and a crucifix with some palms.
It's only
behind
because
it.
it's not 1965.
Exactly, but
No,
I
it's
mean,
not
I
only
don't
because
believe,
it's 1965. It's because people finally figured out what they were really about.
It's
I mean,
'cause we're
that's part
40
of it
years away
too,
from it,
right?
that's
I
why.
mean, and we're getting distance from it, and there's more to it. We know more now than we did then.
Had John Boy not died in that plane crash, it'd be the same thing all over again with him.
Totally.
Maybe.
He was
know.
on. I think he was fast tracking.
Anyway, all right.
But
Let's get off this sidetrack and get back to the most important part of this podcast. Is me making a wild, unusual comparison
Wait, you haven't
between
done that yet?
I've been
no.
waiting. With
So-
bated breath.
To me, this is the Kennedy episode.
Indeed.
This is all about Kennedy
Indeed.
and Nucky. And when I saw this, I kept thinking this is the little guy who's looking up to this big guy and just he's idolizing this guy. He wants to be him. He gives him a gift in this Bacardi deal. He wants something back, some affirmation for some gift back to say, okay, we're on the same team. You're my guy. I'm your guy. Let's go. And he doesn't get it. He gets stomped on. So my comparison is,
What?
Mike, you'll appreciate this. Joe Kennedy is Mean Joe Green in that 1970s commercial.
Coca-Cola commercial.
The Coke.
With the Coke commercial. Nucky's the little kid. Nucky gives him the Coke. The Coke is the Bacardi deal.
Oh
like,
my
oh,
God.
big man, will you please take this? You're my hero. And instead of Mean Joe Green giving the kid the shirt and walking away,
Jersey, right.
he smashes the Coke on the ground and tells the kid to go to hell and walks off.
I absolutely loathe and love this at the same time.
This one was a stretch for me, but that's what I'm going
Brendan,
with.
I
stretch?
kinda like it,
You think
though.
that was a stretch? I would say that was the stretch of all stretches.
Come on, it's
Well, it's art imitating life, right? I mean,
this guy looked up to this guy so much and wanted to be him. He wanted to be in business with him, and the guy dashed his hopes all over his office.
Yes.
So that was my comparison. That's
Okay.
as close as I can get. I couldn't find
look, that was the closest comparison we could come
a
to.
more
I like it.
relevant
I like it.
pop culture comparison, but that's not what I go with.
Hey, Mean Joe.
So, exactly.
For those of you
Thanks,
under
kid.
40,
YouTube it.
search Mean Joe Green Coke commercial.
Yes, you'll find it. It's fantastic.
It is
And-
actually quite the
It's from
artwork.
the 70s.
Yeah, me being a Steelers fan too. I mean, I
I
was all over that.
That's
So, all right.
You never lived in Pennsylvania, did you?
No, I lived in Oklahoma, and we could get 2 games every week. Either it was Steelers or Cowboys, the 2 biggest teams of the 70s. That's all you could get. And I was not a Cowboys fan, so
That's
I was a Steelers
sad.
fan.
That's really sad.
So,
Sad story.
quality kills.
Quality kill.
Let's vote for quality kills. What's your quality kill?
My quality
of the
kill
day?
of the week is obviously, Chalky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Taking Buck
Has to
down
be.
with a claw hammer.
Has
to
to
be.
Twice.
Yeah.
Without
I
question,
agree, without
quality
question.
kill of the week.
You nailed that one, Michael.
And the venom in which he does it.
Say a few
is-
more.
Too many W words.
Fine.
It's you can see the anger in Chalky's face when he does it.
He's almost like, why did you make me do this?
Yeah. Right.
It's just a
He wanted to leave. He wanted to move on forever. It's
I
like,
tried to
dude.
make this work. I talked about
You made this
You
happen.
know, the truant officer. I tried to think of 1,000 ways to get us the hell out of here.
Yeah.
and you wouldn't accept any
And
of
you
them.
wouldn't accept it.
So but it's not like it's calculated on Chalky's part.
No.
It's like I have to do this to end this.
Yeah.
So there's actually it's
Well, it is
cathartic.
calculated,
It's
but
very
I mean, it
well,
is-
no, but it's very cathartic in a way. It's like I don't necessarily want to do this, but I have no choice because otherwise this is never going to end.
Right,
the
and
only
the
way
viewer
this thing
has been
ends.
made
Yeah.
to feel so uncomfortable during this entire
Right.
exchange that they're now grateful for the fact that he's eliminated
Exactly.
this person.
Exactly.
Yes,
So
I would agree with you on that.
definitely quality
100%.
kill of the week.
Creep of the week. I'm going with Kennedy only because Buck is too obvious. He's
Well,
too.
Buck is the creep
He's
of the
too
week.
straightforward.
No, Buck is not the creep of the week.
He was
Buck is
creepy.
Buck is exactly what you expect Buck to be. The creep of the week is either Kennedy or Narcisse. And Narcisse just because
Yeah.
he's a fucking dirtbag.
I might even say the little girl that we proposed to be Jillian. She seemed a little creepy to me.
Oh, really? Not yet. I think it's too early to be calling.
Too early to
Yeah,
tell.
she said,
Not
"Oh,
creep
I
of the
want you to
week. Maybe
kiss
creep of the
me,"
series.
and
Creep of
then
the
kiss the
Right.
horse.
Creep of the
and
season?
then- Oh no, not the season.
Creep of the series, maybe.
I really like Kennedy as creep of the week here because he's so calculated. He's so disgusting. He actually makes me want to vomit.
There's one reason why
Does he not
Kennedy.
make you want to vomit?
There's
No.
one reason why Kennedy wins Creep of the Week. He doesn't drink.
He doesn't drink.
That's
There you
Creep
go.
of the Week.
Never trust, as my brother says.
Never trust a man who doesn't.
Never
a
trust-
man who doesn't drink by choice.
My
Especially
father-in-law,
a man
Denny
named
Flurridge,
Kennedy.
used to say that too.
He's
Never
like,
trust a man. who doesn't.
Robbie always says, if a guy's used to all his chips, then you can't be mad at him.
Yeah.
But if if he just decides that he doesn't want to,
Something's not right.
First time I heard your brother say that was in college. I'm like, you're out of control. I'm like, wait a minute.
He's right.
He's right. I think he's right. I think he's right.
Right.
All right.
So creep of the week goes to Kennedy.
Creep of the Week, Kennedy over Buck by a slim margin, but we'll go with Kennedy. All right.
I will acquiesce.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Next week, I'm
What
looking,
do we have coming? Here's what we have coming.
I have
do
not
know.
looked at the tote boards.
Well, we have Margaret back with a vengeance.
Yeah, Margaret ended the show, right?
Right.
Margaret's
Nucky
back
woke
in
up from a
Nucky's
nightmare,
life,
and all of a sudden Margaret was sitting there.
which we were waiting for forever because she was out on an island.
Well, we knew she was coming back.
Yeah.
We
For
just didn't
sure,
know
because
how.
as
right?
I said in the
And we
prediction,
Michelle
of this
called it
season,
with it being
they were
Nucky,
not
too.
in fact divorced, so there was always going to be some consequence.
Next week, the episode is called Quanto.
Hmm.
And Quanto. Cuanto.
Oh.
And it's directed by
Spanish.
Jake Paltrow.
I saw
That's
that.
Gwyneth,
That's
Gwyneth
interesting.
Paltrow's brother. And we are at the halfway point when we
I
get
know,
through this
after
season.
the show,
Or through this
it'll be
episode.
It'll be the halfway point.
So we're kind of reaching a point where we're going to have to start. We've established some ground for the first half.
Quanto.
We're going to have to start getting
Wrap it.
to a wrap point, right? So
We're
I have
gonna
a
be on
feeling
the downward slide.
we're on the downward slide coming quick, and it's going to be bloody.
Yeah,
It's going to be messy, and we're going to get. Here's what I predict in the next 2 episodes.
Ooh.
2 episodes, okay.
The next 2, we are going to get a healthy dose of Capone.
I'm saying Capone owns the entire next episode. He's all over.
I wouldn't be surprised if he owns the entire.
I was
I
not every
think
scene,
Lucky
but he'll be
is
the
going
big.
to emerge as a
be the big
major.
Well, here's the thing, though: the Benny Siegel and
waiting, I
the
think.
Benny Siegel and Lucky Luciano thing is starting to come to a head with the Narcisse play, right?
Right.
So they go and they shoot up the Harlem thing.
Maybe that's how they.
That's
going to
be definitely going to be a side story, but I think Capone emerges in the next episode.
Capone's got to step up and go crazy, as Capone does. We've got to. I'm thinking sooner than later, you're going to see Lucky and Bubsy kill Maranzano. So that they
Not
can
Maserati.
so that
Maserati.
they can be
Mazzaria.
the driving
Mazzaria.
force of that family, and then go after Narcisse.
Which we know that they will be because we already.
But
know
I think it's got to happen like next episode, so there's enough time for them to establish themselves instead of being under the guise of Maranzano.
Well, and he's older and dirt anyway.
Yeah,
So.
yeah.
I cannot wait for Sunday.
All right, and we think next episode we will have a special guest. Let's not jump the gun on this, but if we do, it'll be great. It'll be hopefully 4 of us, and that'll be episode 4. So
Yes, we should have some interesting dialogue around that one.
yeah, I can't wait.
Signing off.
That'll be fun.
Yes, it will be good.
All right,
Cheers.
cheers.
Thank you for listening to Boardwalk Breakdown. Follow us on Twitter at Boardwalk Break.